approve the memo of understanding, which is called an MOU with Treasury, but our state superintendent, Dr. Rice, wants to also be included on that memo of understanding. So he's in flight tonight, and so he hasn't had the time to peruse the document, so we'll allow him that time. Hopefully by Saturday, we can have that and approve it. But that's what we're waiting on, so we can't do that tonight because we're gonna afford him the opportunity to read that memo of understanding, that MOU, and see if there are any changes needed. Any questions concerning that?
No, the first one's here. Want me to bring her in?
Yes, because Luke's coming.
Yeah, she's coming.
All right, so to the public, if you guys didn't hear, we moved public comment, item D, down to other, because Mr. Bradley is here for about an hour, so we wanted to make sure that we can get our interviews with our candidates finished, since he's present today. All right, so in your package, you have, I think it's like 20 to 23 or 24 questions. And so each board member can choose a question, or if you don't want to choose a question from the sheet, you can ask your own question. But since we have 4 candidates, they'll each have 6 questions to answer.
And Ms. West, sorry, do you have the resumes? I know you sent them, or they're on the agenda? They're on the agenda? No, okay, all right. Okay.
All right, so I'll give you guys just a moment to choose your question. And let us know which question you choose so we don't repeat the same question. Mrs. Gavin, if you just give us just a moment.
No problem. I select number 18.
I'll take.
You just pick one question.
Could we ask the candidate to sit closer to us? She looks like she's in outfield.
If you want that, we can move the mic over there.
Can we move the mic over here?
Well,
Not the table.
I think the candidates can sit here at the table.
Yeah.
Right here. Yeah. We'll just take the mic and put it over. All right, so we have Mrs. Rush with question 18. Ms. Buchanan with question 6. Ms. Cease with question 23.
No,
Okay.
Mr. Bradley has question 13.
You need a better chair?
Okay.
I can wear all these chairs.
This is short. I think they're both short.
I'll take question 11.
I took 18.
No, just one question.
So Mrs. Crowder, question
22.
22. All right, and so we'll start from my right with Mrs. Seats. You have the floor with your question.
All right.
Good evening, how are you?
Great.
Good to see you.
Good to
All
see you as
relaxed and
well.
everything, we're good?
Well, I think I'll get relaxed as we get further along.
All right, thank you.
1 second. So each board candidate has 15 minutes.
15?
Yes.
Oh, each one of them have 15, no?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
so sorry. All right, so my question is, I'm just gonna ask you this question out here. How can a board member or board know if its goals are being accomplished and if its policies are carried out?
Okay. How can a board know if its goals are being accomplished and if its policies are carried out? I think that the board has to have, multiple ways of assessing whether or not the policies are being carried out. Of course, the number one point person is the superintendent. I think that it's good to have regular feedback from the superintendent. My preference is from regular reporting. Whatever your goals are, I think that there should be some report item that matches that goal so that you're assessing that on a regular basis. I would recommend that the leaders of each school or department is providing some type of reporting tool. I also think that it's important to stay connected with the stakeholders. They will also give feedback as well. And you can assess also by being present, not just at the meetings, but also visiting the schools, talking to the youth, talking to the people in the community as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Rush, I'm board secretary and chairman of the finance committee. My question is about the candidate's ability to really fulfill our responsibilities. When people talk to me about getting on the board, people told me, oh, there'll be 2 meetings a month and it'll take you about 6 hours a month. This week, me and most of the people here, we have 5 meetings this week. So my average time spent on board activities is 10 to 15 hours a week. During our debate with the governor, I was spent 30 to 40 hours a week. All that's unpaid. Do you feel that you have time that you could work this into your schedule?
Absolutely. I think that this school district is a priority for me. I drop my life off, my child off at the bus stop every morning. And so it's imperative that I make time for the school district. And whether I'm officially on the board or not, I am reading, researching, watching the meetings online if I'm not presently here, connecting with people. And so I have no problem setting aside the time that is needed to fulfill the role of the school board member.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, ma'am. So I have question 11. And it states, at times you may be caught between legitimately opposing points of view. There may be a difference between your personal point of view and the policy or law that you're required to uphold as a trustee. How will you handle this?
Okay, I want to thank you for that question. I think that in the particular situation that we are in, it is important for us to, one, know the laws, but also be able to work with lobbyists, work with organizations, work with experts who will help us to change the laws so that they work for our particular community. We have a history of laws working against our children, working against our staff, and working against this board. So as I was raised not to break the law, I was also raised that in the respect that there are different ways of interpreting the law and making sure that we're working with lawyers who will work with us in helping to make sure that we are crafting policies that will meet the unique needs of our population.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you, Lenore?
I'm great. How are you, Mrs. Crowder?
Good, thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right, I'm number 22. Working effectively with other school board members and the superintendent requires skills in communication and decision-making. How do you see yourself working with other members of the leadership team? What is your vision for education in this community?
Okay, so your first question is, how do I see myself working with the leadership team?
Yes, in the board.
I believe that as a board member, it's very important for me or any board member to stay in tune with the needs of the community, the students and the staff. And I think that it's also important to respect the leader in his or her own position. So I am able to look at different perspectives and then also stand strong with what I believe is best for the community. So what I would do is what I always do. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to state the facts. I'm going to share why I believe that my view would work. I'm going to listen to what that leader is dealing with, what their perspective is, and I'm going to show them respect, and I'm going to try to find some areas of common ground so that we can move forward. And your second question, could you repeat that for me, please?
Yes. So what is your vision for education in this community?
I have a very strong vision for education in this community. I don't even consider the possibility of taking my son out of the school district because to me, this district is our life source. So my vision for this district is that Benton Harbor area schools will be the premier district in the entire county, and we will provide leadership for the entire state. One of my main visions is that our students begin to love education and begin to see themselves in it, have a deep understanding of their culture and how it relates to being intelligent. I think that the curriculum is missing that piece. So my vision for the district is that we will be leaders. Our students will know who they are, and education will be delivered with a sense of excellence.
Excellent answers.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Gabby.
Good afternoon, Ms. Buchanan.
Believe it or not, I've been here all day, so
I believe it.
yes. But what I want to ask you is, question, what are the biggest challenges facing public education today?
The biggest challenge facing public education is that there are entities with power and money who are keenly interested in transferring public dollars into private industry. And so they have a head start on us. We did not know or understand this for quite a while. And the public school was not in a position of marketing itself. It had never been in that position before. Our students have $1 placed on their heads. And so the problem is that we have forsaken education for marketing, right? And they've been unable to marry the two. They've lost sight of a student-centered education. And I think that there's a way to balance that. There's a way to attract those students and attract those parents back to the district by providing excellent education rather than looking at the dollar on their heads. And there's also a way to work with other entities to try to change the policies so that they will support the public school system. So the biggest challenge, one, was not knowing who the enemy was, and two, not knowing how to handle it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Gavin. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Bradley. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Describe how you will advocate openness and democratic processes in all board activities with emphasis on team decision making and consensus.
Okay. So I believe that everybody has something to offer. I believe that everyone has value. I am not one for just making a decision on my own. I'm a strong believer in synergy, meaning two ideas come together, make a third more powerful idea. And so when it comes to that, I definitely believe in the, healthy debate process when the president calls for discussion. I'm very open to that. I want to hear those ideas because I'm able to take those ideas and create a solution from those ideas. I also think that the public should never be shut out. Well, there are some things that are private, right? Legally, you have to maintain that discretion. But if it's not a situation like that, I think that encouraging the public through surveys, through advisory committees, making sure that their voices are heard, and making sure that they are in tune and know about, what's going on. I believe in doing that on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 3 minutes remaining. Is there, we'll give the last minute to you. Is there any other questions the board member would like to ask? If not, I'll give the remaining minutes to Mrs. Gavin.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. First of all, I want to thank you for getting us to this position where the school district can fulfill a vision with a sense of ownership and independence. I'm very excited with the possibility of being a part of that. I do believe that board members should be paid. But I also know that there is an intrinsic value in giving back to the community that has given to me. I believe that I can do this because I have a unique perspective. I know what the teachers are going through. I have worked with nonprofit. I stay connected with the youth and looking to find out what their solutions are because I think that their voice is valuable as well.
Sorry about that. Sorry about
No
that.
problem. And I'm very enthusiastic about the opportunity to serve and to see and to be a part of what's possible for Benton Harbor area schools. I care nothing about what the newspapers say. I believe that it's important for us to craft our own narrative and to show the positive and the brilliance and the gifted talent that we have here. And so I would be honored to be a board member for the Board of Education for Benton Harbor area schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well put, Ms. Gavin.
Thank you.
Can we have everybody introduce themselves when they sit down?
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay,
Mhm.
I have a question.
my brain has
How
been here for hours.
are we keeping tracks and what, like the scores or anything? Is that what we're keeping track or?
So based on our policy, there's a motion, right? So when we get to that point, you can make a motion of a candidate, and then the board votes. And so based on board policy, Robert Rules of Order, it has to be a majority vote. So there's 6 people, but it still has to be 4 votes. All right? And so I'm keeping my notes on each candidate, right, for each page.
And we have one of these for each.
Yes.
So we need you to 6:15, pretty please. Right. The chairs are not great. If you want a wooden chair, you're
Yeah, I'll
welcome to
take
take one of those.
Feels like I'm back in elementary school.
Yes.
So I'll take the wooden chair here.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't break. I'm a big guy. If it does break, turn that camera off. That will be on Facebook or YouTube.
All right, would you state your name?
Good evening. My name is Nicholas McGee, 2016 Taylor Street, Penton Harbor, Michigan.
Thank you. First question is going to be from Treasurer Seats.
Hi, how are you?
Yes. How you doing, Ms. Steve?
Good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
All right, so we're gonna ask you the question here. How can a board know if its goals are being accomplished and its policies carried out?
I think the board needs to take its time and reexamine are the goals and policy that we're setting are realistic? And will it be effective throughout the entire community? I think one way you can measure where your policies are being carried out is to basically self-examine yourself and look around, and more importantly, go out into the community and be more transparent. As community, as parents, as teachers, as administrators, are our policies working? Is there anything that we can do to make it better? And also, before we carry out policy, I think we need to have a more robust conversation and debate of whether or not are the policies a good fit for our current school district. Then you have to be honest with yourself and ask, where are we at right now as a school district?
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. McGee, I'm Pat Rush, school
How you
board
doing, Ms.
member, secretary of the board, and also chairman of finance.
Okay,
So this question is about your ability to commit to the work that's involved with the board. So in my experience, so I've been on the board since January, in my experience, an average of 10 to 15 hours a week. So, for example, this week we have 5 board meetings, okay? And so, and all of us, as is often said, all of us are very committed and work an amazing number of hours. How will that fit into your schedule? Are you able to make that kind of commitment?
yes, ma'am, I'm definitely able to make that kind of commitment. I'm a stay-at-home father. I have 3 wonderful children and 1 on the way, Lord is willing. I work part-time at the Boulevard in St. Joseph, Michigan, only 2 nights a week. So I think my time is very flexible, and I believe my time can meet the board's needs.
Okay, thank you.
Good
I want
afternoon.
to say this is a nice round table. Seems like you guys got plenty of elbow room.
Yes. It's almost like the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, I see.
Yes, sir. So good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Taylor.
And thank you for participating in this process. So I have question number 11.
Sure.
At times, you may be caught between legitimately opposing points of view.
Mhm.
There may be a difference between your personal point of view and the policy or law that you're required to uphold as a board trustee.
Mhm.
How will you handle this?
I will have to take a step back and separate my personal feelings and separate my feelings about the policy and what the policy put in place by the board. It has to be a complete separation. I know it's hard. I know it could be difficult because we're all human beings, but you have to do your best to separate your personal feelings from what the board, what the policies that are governed by the board. It has to be complete separation. And just to segue a little bit, I feel my personal experience, my moral compass, my belief is what drives me to make the best possible conscious decision as being a potential board member. Yes, personal feelings definitely have to be set aside. I don't want to completely set aside my moral and belief compass as well. If I see things that the board is doing, which is governed, or where policies you have in place, that's completely out of bounds or against, of course, I will voice my opinion professionally, and voice my disagreements professionally. As being a former Ben Harbor City Commissioner back in 2004, there was a lot of times I did bump heads with my fellow city commissioners, which is common. But at the end of the day, I was able to put my feelings to the side and do the work of the people.
Thank you so much, sir.
Mhm.
Good afternoon, Mr. McGee.
Good afternoon.
My name is Michelle Crowder.
How you doing, Ms. Crowder?
Fine, thank you. I'm on the Finance Committee, the Human Resource Committee, the Expulsion Committee, Finding Advisory People, and the Interviewing Committee, all of that.
So you have multiple hats.
Yes, we all do. I'm just letting you know, so you know that you'll be, if you want to pick, you'll be joining us on a lot of different committees. Working effectively with other school board members and the superintendent requires skills in communication and decision-making. How do you see yourself working with other members of the leadership team? That's one question. And the other question is, what is your vision for education in this community? So I'll go back to the first question.
Sure.
How do you see yourself working with other members of the leadership team?
I see myself working well with other members of the leadership team, whether it's board members or administrators. It's about getting to know that individual or individuals and find common ground. Like I said before, you're not going to agree on every single thing, but the common goal is do what is best for the people and the students of our community. Now, your second question, reframe your second question one more time, please.
What is your vision for education in this community?
My vision for education is to raise our standards. I think as a whole for Ben Harbor area schools, and also to embrace a new version of a Tiger Pride. We need a new Tiger Pride. We need to step up and evolve as a district, as a community. And I think the biggest focus that Ben Harbor area schools need to focus on is K-3 literacy. We really need to get a handle on our children and our babies. They are getting lost in the shuffle. When you have a 5-year-old coming to kindergarten, they can't recognize their first names, there's a problem. And the state requires us to have them reading by the end of kindergarten. Well, that's gonna be kind of hard if that kid can't even recognize their first name or know the letter of their first name. So we really have a lot of work to do in that aspect. And also, you probably know this, the majority of your Title I money is in the elementary level, especially in lower elementary. We really need as a district to be literacy focused and come up with a curriculum that can focus strictly on literacy. I really, really do. And when we choose a comprehensive literacy or curriculum program, we need to stick with it for at least 5 years and not change it every single year like we change our underwear or socks. We really need to stick with it. And I think if we focus at the K through 3 level or K through 8 level, we could really improve literacy, because if you don't have great literacy, we really can't accomplish what we need to accomplish in other subject areas. And that's why you have the problems that you have here at high school. Children are behind the area of literacy, which does give you the problems that you have currently right now.
Okay, I was glad to hear you say that because I'm a former reading teacher over 25 years. So I agree with a lot of that.
And also, Ms. Crawley, my children, 2 of my oldest children go to River School in Solis Township. And the one thing they harp on is literacy, literacy, literacy. I even been to St. Joe, I've been to Lake Shore. They harp on literacy. Coloma, Eau Claire, they all harper on literacy, literacy, literacy. And I think at times why I read articles on Facebook and I talk to people in the community, I think that's the one thing that is missing in Ben Harbor area schools is the strict focus on literacy, and more importantly, focus on K through 3 literacy, because that's where our focus needs to be.
Well, we actually do focus on literacy though. But you also said that the kids come to school without knowing different things in kindergarten, alphabets, they don't even know their sounds. So that is a parent thing. If they go to preschool, then they'll get help. But otherwise, if they didn't come to school until kindergarten, then that would be the parent, not the teacher, which means the teacher would have to work doubly hard for that student who didn't get it.
And I completely 100% agree with that, but I think as board members, we need to be advocates and go into the community and really preach to parents on the importance of your child needs to know the basic requirements to be kindergarten ready. In which most school districts demand that these students be kindergarten ready, or this will be the alternative for them. And I think at times, in my personal opinion, with my experience with our regular schools, we really don't have that sort of expectation. We're really celebrating mediocrity a little bit.
So we have 3 minutes remaining for Mr. McGee, and so I want to get to our
Sorry.
last 2 questions. That's okay. This is good.
That was a good answer.
Okay, Mr. McGee, how you doing?
How you doing, Ms. Buchanan? Long time no see.
Yep, I guess I don't know how to work this.
Oh.
Okay. My question is to you, is what are the biggest challenges facing public education today?
Funding. Funding is our biggest challenge, especially here in the state of Michigan. Our politicians on both sides of the aisle are not having a real conversation on real education reform and also refunding the distribution of funding as well. They don't want to have that conversation because some of them think it's too hard to have that conversation. But funding equality in this state is really messed up compared to other states in the Midwest region. Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge education is funding, both at the state level, the federal level, which the federal government haven't had any real education reform in over 30 years, and also the lack of power that our local community has when it comes to deciding our curriculum and our own standards when it comes to education. But funding is one of the biggest problems as it relates to education.
I agree with you totally, but biggest thing too, we need our parents is not back involved in our education system.
Of course,
We need the parents, thank you.
yes, and real quick, Ms. Buchanan, I know I only got like a few seconds. Yes, parent involvement and parent accountability is very, very important in the school district. As I said before, I think it's up to us as board members to be real advocates out there and really push parents to get more involved, especially at the lower elementary level.
How are you doing, Mr. McGee?
Hey, how's it going?
All right. Can you describe how you will advocate openness and democratic processes in all board activities with an emphasis on team decision making consensus? I'm sorry.
Just present the best case I could bring, bring forth any information that is truthful and accurate, have meaningful conversations with our state representatives, and whatever information that I have meeting with them, bring it back to the board and use that information, and hopefully we can come up with a consensus to move forward wherever policy decisions that we make moving forward. Just a short response.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so it's 5:45, but we'll give you some final thoughts for the board.
My final thoughts, I would love to be part of this board. If you guys choose to go in a different direction and not select me as a possible appointee, that will be okay. I will continue to be an advocate in this community for better education here in the Harbor area schools. I do have 2 children who go to River School in Solis Township. I have one that goes to Ben Harbor Charter for pre-K. Someday I would love to enroll my children in Ben Harbor area schools. But to be quite honest with you, Ben Harbor area schools do not have what my children need to succeed academically at this point. Because you guys are going through a huge transition period. And I want to be part of that transition period and help you guys and get you guys going in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. McGee.
Oh,
Oh, she'll take after.
okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. We got, two more.
Oh, I know, after that, that's it.
Oh, no more meetings, we go home at.
Oh, I gotta see what time, the time is. This is good work.
5:45.
We'll be through for then.
What time you gotta go?
We'll be out here for 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I ain't got to call.
Because after this,
Huh?
because we got 15 minutes, 30 more minutes, and that'll be around 6:15.
So we gotta, let's say brain power. We need to-
I know. I didn't get a nap.
Oh, we need to have a nap there for the board.
Stop.
Mr. Turner.
Number, it was number eight. No, I'm sorry. It was number, 13.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I may change it up.
We can't change
Oh,
it.
can't change
We have to be the same for everybody.
Oh.
Yeah, because then it
You're
would be
stuck
there.
now.
Oh.
I'm enjoying doing the same one over and over.
Yeah,
Because you get different answers and you get.
yeah, that's
You gotta
true.
do a different one now.
No.
No, you're in a
They the
different.
same.
Oh, I know that.
You're, Mr. Bradley, I have you as number 12. No,
Uh,
you're number 13.
Number 13.
Oh, gee. Okay.
We've been here
We have
since-
been here
Shut up.
since
She's been here
11:30.
since,
She's been
one.
here
She's been here since one.
We've been here,
I take my picture.
Mr. Turner,
We haven't taken our picture.
we're having you.
But we've been here, Mr. Bradley,
11:30.
we've been here since 11:30. Two of us.
I guess so.
It don't matter.
I don't know.
You said in the wheelchair, but that one slides, so either one you rather have.
Okay,
All right, so first question will go to,
Oh, let
well,
me
then
introduce
let's
her.
I'm sorry, that's right. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Shaquille Turner. I'm a resident of Ben Harbor, Michigan. I've been here all my whole life. I moved to Orlando, Florida for 8 years, come back to Ben Harbor, and here I am now. Wanting to help our young men and young women who have poured out to me numerous of times of joining the school district. Because they have been crying out, and here I am to be their voice, to help the school district move forward.
All right, thank you. First question from Mrs. Seats.
All right, so how are you today?
Including yourself, ma'am.
Very good, thank you. So how can a board know if its goals are being accomplished and if the policies are carried out?
That's by meeting with staff and making sure we are in state and federal guidelines for the Department of Education, as well as the rules and regulations that Congress have applied to each and every individual school district. So make sure we uphold them. And make sure we're not in violation of any DOJ policies.
hi, Mr. Turner, I'm Pat Rush. I'm Secretary of the School Board and also Chairman of the Finance Committee. So this question is about your time availability and time commitment. So many people just see us, when we're on TV. And I was told when they asked me to run for school board, that this would be like 4 to 6 hours a month. The reality is it's more like 10 to 15 hours a week, unpaid. And because not only do we have these school board meetings, but we also have committees. Every school board member functions on at least 2 committees, because we have finance, curriculum, physical plant, policies, and human resources. So, do you think honestly that you would have that much time that you could commit to us?
Yes,
Yes. Okay. So that your schedule, if you have to, 3 of our board members work, so it's hard for them to have to take off early and stuff like that. Will that be a problem for
you
you?
know, because I will always schedule mine a week in advance.
Okay,
But I'm mostly in the school district twice a week now,
okay.
Hull and middle school now, AC.
You go to Hull and ACA twice a week to volunteer? I see. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Mr. Turner, good to meet you.
Same to you.
Yes, sir. All right, so I have question 11, and it states, at times you may be caught between legitimately opposing points of view. There may be a difference between your personal point of view and the policy or law that you're required to uphold as a board trustee. How will you handle this?
By growing what's in law. I cannot depart out of law. Making sure that my choice I choose for the school district is based on law. That's not based on the community. It's not based on someone trying to pay you undercover. I'm making sure I'm doing what's in law. Whatever Congress says, that's what I'm gonna go by. I'm gonna stand firm on law. I don't care who you are, I'm going by law.
So in our policy manuals, if the policy states whatever, not just the Michigan compiled law, but also our policy,
Correct. But
you will follow.
Yes, the Department of Education.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Turner.
Good afternoon.
Oh, my name is Michelle Crowder. I'm on the Finance Committee, Human Resource Committee, and Expulsion Committee. Working effectively with other school board members and the superintendent requires skills in communication and decision-making. How do you see yourself working with other members of the leadership team? And I'm not. What is your vision for education in this community? So I'll go back and repeat the first question. How do you see yourself working with other members of the leadership team?
Very effective. I communicate well.
Okay,
They can reach me by cell phone, email, or face social media, however it may affect them. Whether they said they are delaying something, I'm always here to fill in when it's needed to be, as long as I know in advance. So communication, nothing lacking at all.
do you have a job?
Yes. But my job, they are aware of that. I told them that I may be joining the school district, and they are aware.
Oh. You look like you had a job, I just wanted to know. So what is your vision for education in this community?
My vision is the Department of Education of Ben Harbor to
Yeah.
advance our children, to bring back academic classes where our children are above and beyond means of going out and becoming entrepreneurs, being business minded, and making sure our children in this district could be achieved better than other school districts in here. I'm tired of looking around the city of Ben Harbor, have delighted our schools, and I will bring back our school districts. We have too many schools closed. Bring back schools for our parents, for our older parents, and for our children. Our children lag behind too many classes in this school district, and we need to bring back our classes and hire more higher paid teachers that are committed to this community here, and making sure teachers have the training and staff have training as well if they need.
Thank you.
Mr. Turner. Okay. Mr. Turner, nice to see you, and like Mr. Carter said, just like you a working guy, what are the biggest challenges facing public education today?
Right now, school resources. Right now, resources. The Department of Education, as well as Congress, are failing to send funding over to school districts. I don't care who you are, we had $1.5 billion left over inside RS last year. That money could have been turned to education. We have too much money going to incarceration. That money can go to Department of Education. We are locking up too many of our students today. That money needs to turn to education to give more resources to our teachers, to more to our schools, and making sure we turn our school district to pre-college classes, how they down here on 30th floor area. I think that's what we need to be moving towards too, and making sure all our children have a goal by the end they graduate. And making sure when they leave school, they know their plans, their resources they can go into, and making sure we have funding to put our children to college.
Thank you. Thank you.
How you doing, Mr. Turner?
Good and you?
All right, I'm gonna ask this question here. Describe how you will advocate openness and democratic processes in all board activities with emphasis on team decision making and consensus.
Making sure we all have a review of the policies, law, the state and federal, making sure we understand school policies, making sure we come to a firm agreement that we may agree and disagree on what's the decision we're making though. But making sure the public have heard their response and making sure I take in the students, the staff, as well as my own decision before I agree to something or disagree on something.
Okay, so find the common ground. All right, thank you, sir.
So you have several minutes, and if you would take the time to give us some closing comments to the board from your perspective, whatever it is you want to tell us today.
I have spoken with numerous school students in this school district, particularly the high school here. We have students who are afraid to walk down Pipestone, the Empire here, to go home. Because they send staff here to come and help them out. No one from the city of Benton Harbor has been listening to our students. The young people reached out to me and asked me to help them out. Here I am today, being the young people's voice to understand that we can make the school they need where they are safe, better learning environment. We have third graders who are behind because we need to deal with the trauma that's at the house. We must meet with parents. And I am willing, as I told the school superintendent today, I am more willing to meet with parents. I'm a 10-year suicide survivor, and I know my experience meeting with these children who have mental illness can go a long way. Whether I'm elected or not elected, I am committed to helping our young children and moving forward. Anybody who's not on the wagon helping our young children, that's not part of me. I'm going to direct the right direction. I'm not here to be a name. I'm not here to be seen, to get a trophy. I'm here to be effective. My whole life is to be effective to our young children. If that's not you, I'm not here to be with you. I'm my own leader, and I'm going to help our children to choose the right path to go on. And that's just how I believe my whole life.
Where should it be?
What's your age?
I'm 26.
Thank you for volunteering at the schools. We really appreciate that.
Someone just need more parents to do that.
I'm not a parent, so.
No, I said they need more parents, I know.
Thank you so much, Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
So when do they find out today?
Yeah, we're gonna
About that? We said yes.
We vote. Yeah. You always have to vote in public by law. You can't vote, you gotta vote in public, it's the law, because it's Open Meetings Act. So So you just have to go with your gut feel.
So when we're all done, then we can nominate a candidate and then we can vote.
Correct.
You remember something? Yes, you did, Nicholas. You ain't Nicholas, you. One, Brad. Look. What you- I said, let you do it. I mean, that's what you have. I don't- Yeah. No, no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, so we have our last potential candidate. Mr. Watson, would you give us a brief intro as to who you are?
Thank you. Name is Darwin Watson, lifelong resident of the city of Benton Harbor. Graduated from Grand Valley State University. Came back to the city of Benton Harbor, worked here at the city of Benton Harbor for 20 plus years in various capacities from started as initially as a water plant operator and finished my career as a city manager for the city of Benton Harbor. I have two children, both adult that have graduated from high school, and one just graduated in 2019. My youngest son just graduated. Currently, I'm working as a consultant for a local company. I enjoy basketball, football, sports, hanging around, just around. I'm a techie, so I love electronics and things like that. Also, I love just doing things in the community and seeing the community grow.
Thank you. First question will be from Mrs. Seeds.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, how are you?
Thank you. So how can a board know if its goals are being accomplished and if its policies are being carried out?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Yes, how can a board know if its goals are being accomplished and if its policies carried out?
So how the board can know if their goals are being accomplished and their policies are being carried out? The goals, the board's responsibility is to set those parameters and to make the environment such that they could, and put people in place that they can then function, give them the tools that they need. And then what they have to do then is let them operate. And then they have to have measurables that they can say what has been attained, what has been done, and make sure that the policies are implemented. But then you also have to hold those people that you put in place accountable for executing the jobs and the policies and procedures that have been established and the goals that have been set for the district.
Thank you.
Mr. Watson, I'm Pat Rush. I'm
Nice to meet you.
Secretary of the board,
Mhm.
also chairman of the finance committee.
Okay.
So this question is going to be about time commitment and your availability. So as board members, we have at least 3 board meetings a month.
Mhm.
We all serve on at least 2 committees in addition to the board meetings, as well as lots of other projects. So in my experience of being on the board since January, I'm spending 10 to 15 hours a week unpaid working for the board and the district. I'm happy to do that. I'm very committed to this district and its success.
Mhm.
But it was shocking to me how much time it took. So the question would be, for you, what is your time availability? We need people to not only, just read. I think, when you see stuff on TV, it looks like, you know, we're just passing everything, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of homework, there's a lot of policies to consider, there's a lot of problems to help try to solve. Do you have that kind of time and commitment?
Yes, ma'am. In the current role that I have now as a consultant, I kind of set my own hours. Prior to that, as I said, I served as a city manager for the city of Benton Harbor. There was a lot of time commitment to that as well, whereby you have to do things outside of the normal 8 to 5, and it requires you to commit to it. I'm committed to this community. This community is home. So as to answer your question emphatically, yes, I would have the time and the commitment to do the job if afforded the opportunity to serve on this board.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening, Mr. Watson.
Good evening.
I have question 11, and it states, at times you may be caught between legitimately opposing points of view. There may be a difference between your personal point of view and the policy and or law that you're required to uphold as a trustee. How will you handle this?
Given that laws have to be followed and they're in place to be followed, you have to definitely listen to what persons and people say in the community. However, you have to follow the law, even if it causes you to get some backlash from the community. A lot of times decisions that are made are hard decisions. They're not popular, but they are the ones that need to be made at the time, given the constraints of the law, as well as the policy procedures that have been established for the board.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening, Mr. Watson.
Good evening.
My name is Michelle Crowder. I'm on the Finance Committee, the Expulsion Committee, and the Human Resource Committee.
Mhm.
And my question is number 22. Working effectively with other school board members and the superintendent requires skills in communication and decision-making. How do you see yourself working with other members of the leadership team? What is your vision for education in this community? So the first question was, how do you see yourself working with other members of the leadership team?
In jobs that have held prior to this, or even jobs that I've done in my career, it has required me to have to deal with a lot of diverse people from a lot of different backgrounds, with a lot of different ideas, with a lot of different viewpoints. So what you have to first and foremost do is value each person's viewpoint. You can effectively agree to disagree, but you don't have to be disagreeable. And the one thing that always has to happen is there has to be unity amongst the board, even if you don't agree with the decision, because you may have not had the viewpoint, your viewpoint may have not been the one that came forward. You still have to respect the wishes of the majority.
That was a good answer. What is your vision for education in this community?
This district is a gem. This district is approximately about 150 years old. It's been around for a long time. What has to happen now is the community has to galvanize around the fact that we are not only competing in the local economy, we're competing in the state economy as well as the national and the global economy. So we have to equip the students educationally to be able to function and to compete in those venues. If we do not do that, we do them a disservice, and we should be held accountable for not providing that education. We should be able to look at things outside the box within the constraints of what education can do.
Good, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Watson, and my question number 6, and it says, what are the biggest challenges facing public education today?
the biggest challenges facing public education today. Public education, the challenges that I see that face it, number one is funding. The funding source and funding mechanism that exists for public education now is broken, and it needs to be fixed and it needs to be revamped. The other thing with public education is, personally, I think that even though charter schools are a public school, I think it detracts from the public schools that have been established. And I don't think you get a better education. I think it's just an alternate way, honestly, for people to make money.
There you go.
So what if you're going to pour into charter schools, if you're going to pour into schools of choice? Schools of choice also is another dynamic that is crippling the public school districts. I don't have a problem with you educating your child, but when that child is taken out of its environment, it becomes harder for them to assimilate themselves in that district or in that arena. So for me, as I said, finances are one. The attack on public schools from the standpoint of offering alternatives. And then the last thing for me is that there is a parent involvement and making sure that they are a part of the answer.
Good, that's what it needs. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Watson.
Good evening.
I'm Matt Bradley, trustee here on the board. Describe how you will advocate openness and democratic processes in all board activities with emphasis on team decision-making and consensus.
Repeat that one more time for me, thank you.
Describe how you will advocate openness and democratic processes in all board activities with an emphasis on team decision-making and consensus.
As I stated earlier, you can disagree behind closed doors, but when you come out, you should have a united front. Even though you don't agree with it, you still have to agree with the process. Democracy is not about getting your way, it's about making a way for something to get done. So in order for you have to, when you promote the decision-making and the team, it's not putting or casting disparaging comments and or words because it didn't come out your way. It's sitting there and saying, even though my will wasn't done, I'm still going to be a part of the team.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well done.
Mr. Watson, you have 2 minutes, and please give us a closing statement.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to interview for this position. Like I said, I'm a lifelong city resident. This is my home. It's going to take us as a community,
Right on.
not just Ben Harbor, but Ben Harbor and the surrounding communities, to bring this district back and put it in the place that it deserves to be in. Quality education is a right. It's a right that every child should be able to have an opportunity to learn. One of the things that has to happen is, from this for the district, is to dispel the myths that are out there. And I think that happens a lot when you're able to tell your story the right way. Don't let the media tell your story. Tell your story.
Oh, no.
And allow people to then judge you based on your own merits, not on what they perceive to be your merits. Because I believe at the end of the day, everyone in this room genuinely loves the city of Ben Harbor and loves the community that we live in. We may have differing opinions, but at the very rudimentary ground level, we love this community. I just want to be one to help roll up my sleeves and allow me to bring the skill set that I bring to the board to help this entity as one of the entities in this community. Like I said, there's 3 legs to this stool. There's public education, there's public safety, and then there's the appearance of being stability. So if any of those are out of whack, the community's out of whack. We have to get back to get on solid foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. You got to take this one.
These sheets, I think that's just for our interest.
You need these very much.
Right.
I'll tell you, go get anybody else.
No, she may be bringing the candidates back out. I don't know if we, how she was doing it, that's because she put the candidates in the back so they wouldn't hear each other's, answers. So I don't know if she's gonna bring them or not, but
I think we should just.
we can
proceed.
start. So based on our board policy, it states that, the appointment is won by, majority vote, right? So I showed you guys the policy, sent you guys the policy, and so we'll take, nominations, and then we'll vote those nominations. Yes, ma'am.
So I nominate Elnora Gavin for new board member.
Support.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor for Mrs. Gavin. Questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll?
So, the reason I'm nominating Ms. Gavin is because, I feel like she's here at almost every board meeting. She fought hard for us and, has mobilized a lot of people in the community and on the state level to, keep the high school open, keep Benton Harbor open. And I feel, that she is, I actually thought all the candidates had a lot of good things to say. But I think that she has proven that she is, in touch with the students and is able to get them excited and instead of discouraged about us. And I think we have, everybody on the board brings something new, but I think that would be something she could bring.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, comment, like Ms. Rush said, she was here every board meeting, and sometimes people come to the meeting just to blame someone else. She never did that. I mean, she always had an idea. Rest of the young, all of them was good, but I look at her and she was always had something to help us, not pointing the finger at Mr. Taylor, Miss Buchanan, Miss Crowder, Miss that we done something, but she always had an idea to help this, and I've called her a couple times we was on, so I support her 100%.
So I would say differently from my perspective, because when we look at board members have to make sure that we stay focused about the task at hand, right? It can't be one-sided. Mrs. Gavin was on the board previously, and she quit after 6 months. So when I look at that, when you get nominated by your peers or appointed, you need to finish your course. You can't stop in between the course of action, because our students are first, right? They need you. The people who put you in need you. And so there's a lot of rhetoric in the past from Mrs. Gavin, Facebook posts and all kinds of things that are against, the school board bearing recess. So I can't support that, because at this state, right now, we're at a moment in time where this board will either function properly and do what's right, or this district will be closed. So we know that right now we don't have time for mismanagement, disagreements. We need to be on the same accord. And so that's what it is for me, because I think, we can't quit, right? We're all at this table. We just got through tonight talking about the amount of time we spend. So we can't just come and quit before things get started. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll? Mr. Bradley?
I also want to say, yeah, she was a solid candidate. I'm up there going to just wait for my vote, because I'm gonna go a different direction, so.
And I'd just like also to state that all four candidates, I think were very great candidates. But I'm gonna just wait for it with myself.
Yes. All right, so we have a motion on the floor for Mrs. Gavin. We have a support. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
And so people should say either yes or no.
Yes.
So, Mr. Taylor,
No.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
No.
Ms. Buchanan,
No, that one on. I'm undecided right now.
Mr. Bradley,
No.
Ms. Wiley Seats.
No.
Okay, motion is defeated.
All right, next motion from the floor.
I do one.
Yes, ma'am.
I nominate, Shaquille Turner.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. May I have a support?
Support.
All right, so it's motion by Mrs. Crowder, supported by Secretary Seats. Questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll?
The reason I selected him, he's a young, intelligent young man. I think our teens need him, our younger students need him. And, to be young and supportive of the board is what this district needs and what this board needs at this time.
I didn't know that went on.
We're voting now, though. So any other questions, comments, concerns?
Like I said, he's a younger candidate, he'll bring a different perspective, so, but I'm up there, like I said, I'll just let the vote process go.
So my only concern with, I mean, I appreciate very much that Mr. Turner has already proven himself by volunteering at 2 of the schools. My concern is with his answers to the questions, which is that he repeatedly referenced the federal government, which in my experience of 10 months on the board does not have that much to do with what we're talking, well, what governs us. I think the other 2 candidates spoke about the Michigan Department of Education and the Michigan Department of Treasury, which had much more to do with our thing. I think one of the problems that all board members have is that how to, which I've spoken about before, how do we get ourselves up to speed of how things are done? I mean, I had worked, as everybody knows, not for everybody, but I had worked in Illinois with Illinois state government, Cook County government, and Chicago government. However, the Michigan government runs completely differently. So my concern is that if we choose him as a board member, one of us, or 2 or 3 of us, has got to commit to helping him get really apprised as to the background here. I thought the other 2 candidates seemed more prepared. I mean, he's a nice guy and he shows his commitment, but being a board member requires actually a lot of understanding of state law, so.
Well, I didn't know any state law and get interested in anything until I became a board member. But I'm just looking at it from the prospect of what he can bring to the board as far as working with our youth. So it's easy to get up on what we need to get up on the board because Mr. Taylor is not gonna let us just sit around and, do nothing. And he's always sending us emails, so we know he's gonna learn quickly.
I didn't know that.
All right, so any more questions, comments, concerns? I would just state that whomever we choose, we will work with them. We'll get them in place to do what's right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Taylor,
I'll say yes.
Ms. Rush, no. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
No.
Ms. Watley Seeds.
No,
Okay, so he does not, that's defeated also.
Okay, all right.
Keep going.
So on to the next nominee. I nominate Darwin Watson.
Support.
All right, so motion by Mr. Taylor, supported by Ms. Buchanan. Questions, comments, concerns?
With, Mr. Watson, what I liked was the experience of the background coming from city government. So that will give us somebody who has leadway into the situation that we have, because I know he has worked in the city before when we had the state takeover, years ago. So that experience, what we're going through right now, would help, for the time being. So that's what I feel on that.
I think Mr. Watson would be an asset to our board. Lifelong citizen. References to boot, I think he would be a very good candidate.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Ms. Lou?
Well, yes, some stuff I didn't know, I should have asked before that vote, but he will be okay. But Mr. President, I know I have to vote, but yeah, I have to be somewhere before 7,
Okay, let's just
so
vote.
I got to go.
We gotta vote.
All right, so.
Lou, please wait
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Mr. Watson should be offered the new position.
Bring donuts to the next meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Lou.
Mr. Watson, I've been here all day without food. I don't mean any harm to our audience, but really serious. On the serious side, we have a problem with our young people. We all got to go in there and start doing what we have to do. I'm serious. So I got to go. Somebody
All right, thank you, Ms. Lou.
Thank you very much.
So at this time, I think we have the notary here as well, so they can get sworn in tonight, Mr. Watson. At this time, because we moved public comments down to item D down to before others, so anyone in the public that would like to make a comment, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Oh, the mic is
The
gone.
mic is right here.
There it is.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ronaldo Triplett. I'd like to say to the Board of Education, I'm just very pleased, not so much with any particular individual, but I am very pleased to see our board being individuals and doing the thing. You know, a lot of times we get caught, you get kind of nervous about, okay, what is happening? Is anything happening? How are people moving? Because a lot of times we don't, as community members, a lot of times we don't really honestly trust the process. But I just want to say to the Board of Education, tonight, just having an opportunity to observe for myself and what I saw and the discourse and the leadership that I saw tonight was very comforting. And so just want you to know that we are honestly praying for you all. This is not, I was joking with the candidates that I saw in the hallway. I said, did y'all see God before y'all decided to say your name upon the thing? I just want, but do y'all really know what y'all really doing? Is this something y'all really want to do? But, this board plays an important role in the success of our district. And so, again, I feel good. And the questions that you asked, some of the questions that you asked, and just looking at your responses, observing the whole process, I know some of you all took one for the team. You know, even though you may have had a different idea, or this person had a different idea, but when you guys had the conversation and the questions that you asked of them, I think that you all displayed that tonight. So I just had, people come up and always have something negative to say. And I know you guys get a lot of negative things. There's nothing behind my comments or anything, just to say that I'm very, very grateful the way in which I was able to see tonight, not who you chose, but the process. And the process really did seem integral and open. So thank you for this privilege and this opportunity. And I do feel a little hope for the Board of Education. Y'all stay on the wall, stay focused.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right. So at this time, any other from the Board of Education, any other items? Any discussion items? All right, board announcements or comments. We'll start with you, Treasurer Seats.
Good evening, community. Thank you for coming. Those that are here, appreciate you being here. See you next time.
Yeah, thank you for coming out to see this. I do think it's an important part of the democracy of our district and of our community. So I appreciate your support. That's it.
All right, thank you. I want to thank the Board of Education for a great process. And not only that, for you guys stepping up for expulsion hearings and things like that. I know you've been here all day, so thank you so much for all you do. And to the public, right, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time, just coming here to hear the process, see the process. And also, we want to make sure that you're here to make sure you hold us accountable. Thank you.
Well, this was my first time doing interviews and not getting who I might have selected, but the process was clear and we had to follow it. And we made the right decision based on the democratic process. Thank you.
I want to say good evening to the public and thank you for coming out. It's always good to see you all. I was on work. I'm not technically supposed to be in town. I'm supposed to be on my way to Colorado Springs, but I'm going to be here because I know this is an important process and I also want to know how it works. And so I'm glad to be on the scene to see how it works. And like I said, once again, thank you all for coming out.
All right, so may I have a motion to close tonight's meeting? Moved by Treasurer Seats and supported by Trustee Bradley. Madam Secretary?
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yeah.
McKenna gone, Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Watley Seats.
Yes.
Motion passes, meeting adjourned.
All right. 6:33.
Yeah.